Haunted by our past. Now, in my 40 plus years of playing music, creating music, and being in the music business, I've had to live, work, breathe in some very interesting places with often some very colorful characters. And it doesn't matter whether it was something that happened 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 10 years ago. I'm often haunted by the past. Now, there are times where I'll wake up and I'm back in the band house, the Shock House out in LA. And I wake up sometimes and I swear I feel that I was there. Now, I don't remember the exact address of the Shock House, but I remember what that house looks like. I remember what it feels like. I remember what it was like living there. I remember being winters in my room with no insulation and those slat kind of windows that you roll to close, and it being freezing cold. And I can remember having a girlfriend that would call, that lived in Hollywood, and she'd call me after going out to the bars and say, hey, come over. And I would drive, through Laurel Canyon, and I would go over there just because I was freezing. I was absolutely freezing. But I remember another time of getting that same call and heading over there and knocking on that door. She was passed out. And I knocked and I knocked and I knocked and I rang the doorbell, and it was late. It was probably 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I realized she wasn't coming to the door, and I was going to have to go back and freeze another night in my room at the Shock House. And, it's moments like that that really get embedded deep in your mind. And the colorful characters, as somebody mentioned the other day, I told the story about Psycho. And one of my friends that was in the story, that was there, he reminded me, no, the guy was called Rambo. It makes sense now, Rambo with his knife. But, those crazy circumstances, and somebody said, oh, was it Wild Bill? And I was like, no, I remember Wild Bill. I didn't have a ton of times hanging out with Wild Bill, but I do remember Wild Bill, these crazy people that would come by and hang out, and it's something for the young guys out there. If you're going to have to tough it out in life, and you're going to have these crazy experiences being a musician, one day you're going to be old like me, if you're lucky, and you're going to be haunted by your past. Hopefully, your past isn't, shall we say, a very dark and scary place, because it can be when you're having to live in, not very expensive housing. Playing music can be extremely difficult, and it's not easy to make enough money to live comfortably. It wasn't back then, and it's especially not now. But I am haunted by these things. Sometimes they're nightmares, and sometimes they're just a trip back in time. But either way, those things are embedded in my psyche. Now, there was a time where, the road, became overwhelming, and the amount of work and the grind was getting to be too much for me to handle at the time. And when it ended, I was having nightmares. I got back home, and it was like, watching Apocalypse Now, and the guy laying in bed watching the ceiling fan, waiting for another mission. And I knew that I never wanted another mission again. I never wanted to go back out on the road. It just wasn't something that I wanted to do anymore. And, for a long time, I would have nightmares. And the nightmares would involve things like, dealing with, aggressive tour managers, being late for shows, learning material that some of the other band members didn't learn and being expected to cover for them. These are similar situations to what I dealt with. But these situations would haunt me. And, it got to a point where, and I know some of my other friends from that world, from the touring world, nothing specific, but from the touring world, they deal with the same thing. They are haunted by the situations and world that they're having to live in. And it can be a tough thing. It can be a tough thing to deal with. I know people will say in the comments, oh, you had it easy, and I'll work circles around you, and, this kind of stuff. And man, I don't doubt it. There's way tougher ways to make a living. But that doesn't negate your own feelings. That doesn't negate the fact that nightmares and situations that you're in can stick with you through time. And it can take a long time before those nightmares, gradually fade into the background. And now, I have dreams of the past. I have hope for the future. And I don't have as many nightmares as I did. It took several years before those would fade away. And now it's just every now and then, out of the blue, I'll wake up and I'll feel like I was back there and dealing with situations that I had to deal with and pressure that I had to deal with. And it can be a tough thing. Now, I know a lot of my viewers, we've all got a storied past. We all have things that haunt us from the past. But I'd like to say to the young guys that watch this channel and listen to my videos, be careful what you settle for. Be careful where you work. Be careful who you come in contact with, because it will haunt you as you get older. And these memories will come flooding back in the form of dreams. And these dreams will feel so real that you feel you've lived it again. And hopefully each day you wake up in a better place. and realize you're thankful for not being in that situation again. Life is tough no matter what you do, man. If you're working a 9 to 5 or you're putting on a suit every day in the corporate world, man, it's tough. I know. You've got people gunning at you all the time, demands, do this, do that. No, don't do this, don't do that. You've got pressure. And I'm sure people that work everyday jobs, they have nightmares about their job as well. I don't have any answers, but I know from talking to the people each day in the Breakfast Club on my channel that by listening and by sharing these experiences through the comment section and by my daily morning chat with the Breakfast Club at 8 a.m. every morning on my channel, it helps. It helps to talk it through. And it helps for me to tell you things will get better. You can survive anything that you decide to survive mentally and physically. And you can make things better. You can get those nightmares to go away and have a positive future. Things can get better because you will make it better. It's never too late to make a change. It's never too late to get out of a bad situation and do something different. Sometimes the decision is made for us, and we're lucky in that regard as well. But I wish everybody that watches this channel, I wish them inner peace and happiness, because that is the greatest thing that I can wish for anybody. Money is not going to give you that. Things are not going to give you that. The newest guitar is not going to give you that. That is a thing that you have to seek out from within. Inner peace, resolve, the ability to change. These are all things that you're capable of, that you can do, that you can make happen. And I know, because I have gone through more change and more metamorphosis in my life than anybody can imagine. And I rolled with the punches, and I got up off the floor, and I pulled myself together. And you can do that too. If you're dealing with issues right now, whether you're drinking too much or smoking too much or eating the wrong things or not exercising, you can turn your life around and turn your life from a nightmare into a good